Hi, everybody. I'm Cynthia Good, and I wanted to welcome you to the fourth and final Pink Zoominar on conversations that matter during this pandemic. The series is called Leadership Through Crisis, and today's focus is on the new normal. What does that look like? What are the biggest challenges? What are the solutions? We want to bring you some takeaway solutions that you can begin using today. So let me introduce our experts. Lynn Turknet. She is an executive coach. She is the co-founder of the Turknet Leadership Group. Also with us, Nadia Theodore. Nadia is the Consulate General of Canada in Atlanta. Nadia, go ahead and take it away and tell us what you're seeing. Can you give us a little insight? What happened?
Well, listen, and we're going to hear, like you said, from an executive mom, and for everybody who is a caregiver in any way, whether it's children or parents or pets or whatever, that we haven't been able to kind of shove out the door like we normally would. What happens is that you end up doing a lot of your thinking work that you would do in the office,
right?
Sometimes, when the kids are in bed. And yesterday, that was my day. I did not actually start my work until about 9:30 p.m., which meant I was up until 3:30 a.m., which means that today is a 4-cup of coffee day.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Well, thank you for sharing that, because so often, through Pink, we put these amazing women leaders like yourself out in front on stage, and sometimes it's hard for everybody else to realize, it's just tough. We're all in this together, as they say, dealing with a lot of challenges. Lynn, what are some of the biggest challenges that your executives that you're working with are wrestling with right now?
Well, I think right now people are trying to figure out what to do. A lot of people were thinking they'd be reopening right now. They're not reopening right now, so they're figuring out how to keep things the same. At least for most of the clients that we're working with, a lot of them are still working at home. There are people, I think you're absolutely right, that female leaders are stressed a bit more. They usually have more of the impact of figuring out what school is going to be like, what daycare is going to be like. I will say, though, that having done this for many, many years, I feel like there is more contribution, more equality in the contributions from men and women than I have seen before. I wouldn't, this would have gone very differently 20 years ago.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and there are definitely so many silver linings. In fact, Nadia, I think in one of our correspondences, you said, this has been a leadership boot camp like no other. Tell us a little bit about that.
Indeed. Listen, and you said it so wonderfully, Cynthia, at the top, that in terms of building your leadership chops and expanding your leadership skill set, this whole intersection of having to deal with workplace safety in a real way, right? Not just worrying if somebody's going to slip and fall in the bathroom or, slip and fall down the stairs, but in a real, very concrete and very emotional way for many people, dealing with workplace safety issues, and then dealing with the whole uncertainty of job security. Even from a leader, while we would like to tell everybody, absolutely no way will anybody lose their job ever, that's not the reality, right? And the reality is more so than before, at least in my case, is that regardless of whether you can reassure people, even 95%, that 5% becomes very stressful for an individual because of the COVID context. So navigating that. And then finally, and I talk about this a lot, and maybe it is self-serving, but I think it's important taking care of yourself as well as a leader, right? Yeah. You can't fill other people's cup up if your cup is empty.
Yeah.
So
and we're going to talk about that too. Great points. You both made some really great points highlighting those things that so many people are dealing with. But what I would like to do now is find out how everybody else in the Zoom is doing. We want to hear from all of you. We want to know how you are. So let's go ahead and take the temperature, if you will, for everybody who's participating in the Zoominar today. Lisa Herman, who's with the Pink team, is going to pop a question up there on the screen for you. And we want to know which of these is of greatest concern to you. You can click more than one. The options are business, career, job security, childcare, school. Is the biggest concern family health? Is it, as Nadia was referring to, sort of personal finances as a subset of that? Is it stress and mental health, working remotely, or your other option, work-life balance? So go ahead and let us know your thoughts on that, and we'll put the results up super quick. Give everybody a second or two to weigh in, and then we can see the results right away on the big screen. And I'm gonna take some notes, because last time we did this, it was on remote workers, and the biggest issue was burnout by far. The number one issue, 43%, was burnout. And the number two issue, tied at 43%, was concern about the teens' level of exhaustion. Lisa's got this up on the big screen. Family health is number one with 42%. And then let's see, number two would be business, career, and job security at 39%. And then number three, 35%, stress and mental health. Well, that's our top three. So Lynn, are you surprised by that? And is that consistent with what you're seeing with the executives you work with?
You know, I really think the family health has gone up quickly lately. I think some of these things, just in the past few weeks, we've gotten a feeling that this is going to go on longer than we all thought, that things are not quite where we thought they would be. And we're dealing with that. Mm-hmm. We're seeing people in healthcare, execs in healthcare, and I know for them, they've had to deal with the health issues, with thinking about my family member could come down with this. You know, they're going to the emergency room and working every day. This may come to home. But I think other people, everybody's kind of feeling that now. I think everybody's feeling that job security. They're seeing that things happen within their extended family, and that creates more stress. I think we're figuring out. I'm surprised that working remotely is so low.
Isn't that amazing? Working remotely. Maybe it's because everybody tuned into the remote workforce Zoom already did. No, that is really interesting. And Lisa, thanks for popping that back up on the screen. Nadia, what are your thoughts on this?
You know, when you look at this, all the top three are they really intersect, right? And even the top four, if you take business, career, job security, family health, stress and mental health, work-life balance. And Lynn alluded to it, that, you know, this idea of thinking about the health of your family, and for those who have school-aged children, thinking about the fact that, well, September or August actually here in Georgia is upon us. And either way, your kids are going back to school and you're thinking, are they going to be safe?
Right.
Not for want of trying from anybody, of course, right? Our educators and administrators are 100% concerned and trying, but we just don't know what this virus is, right? And where it will go to next. And that causes stress and mental health.
Yeah.
And it also can cause some stress and some worry about your job security, right?
Yeah.
Because if you have to take care of a family member, or if you have to stay home with a child that's ill for an extended period of time, or doing remote school, then that can also affect your job security. So the intersection between all of those, I think, is quite interesting.
Very good point. Thank you. We've got one more question for you. You know, given all that, you know, Nadia and Lynn just talked about, how optimistic are you about the future? We want everybody to please weigh in on this one too. Let's see what the group says. Are you optimistic about the future? Lisa, you're going to pop that one back up on the screen in a moment. And I do want to tell everybody, we're going to put everybody in some breakout sessions a little bit later during this program. And the idea really is to, you know, be able to talk about things with a little privacy and a little more intimate environment, give the chance to really network a little bit more connection, which I think would be really great. And then when everybody comes back, we can take a look at the concerns that you all have, and we can talk about solutions and really jump in there and look at solutions. So Lisa, do you have that other poll? I know she's looking for it. So we can go on if you don't, but Lisa, tell us what's going on over there. We know it's technology.
No, yeah. So maybe Hope can help me. I have it up there, and I'm saying launch poll, but nothing's happening.
Does anybody see it? Lynn, do you see it? Not
don't-
yet.
I'm still
Yeah.
showing that the poll results are still being shared from the first
Oh.
poll. So I think you have to stop sharing before you launch a new
Okay.
poll, if that helps.
This is live. You know, we're good with it, right? Remote.
I love
work,
it.
Doing this
I
sort of
don't
thing.
actually see that either. I'm so sorry.
Everybody has. All right, well, let's move on. You know what? We're going to come back to that. But right now, I want to go ahead and reach out to a couple other experts. Emily Borna, are you on the call with us? Emily Borna is an attorney with Jackson Lewis, and she handles a lot of employment issues.
Ah, there it is. Sorry.
She's seeing a lot of legal issues coming up. We're going to talk to her in a moment, but now that Lisa's got this survey, let's just go ahead and do it. Yay, Lisa. Are you optimistic about the future? Are you very optimistic? Somewhat optimistic? Or are you somewhat unsure? Or very unsure? Or none of the above? Yeah, and we can go ahead and just see those results right away, probably.
Y'all ready?
Yeah, let's see it. Okay, very optimistic. Yeah, there's still a lot of uncertainty. What wins? It's a tie. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, that's really interesting. I think somebody owes me lunch because they said everybody will say somewhat. But people are, it sounds like more optimism, right? Is that your take, Nadia?
Well, you know, I feel like that the three-way tie is indicative of people wanting to be optimistic, but right,
Interpretation.
but being cautious about it because again, who knows, right? But as leaders, I think that our instinct is to be the ones that are cheering people on, and so we automatically go to optimism. And I, even amongst my family, is known as the most annoying eternal optimist. So I feel like, you know, don't even ask me because I'm always like, oh, it'll be fine. You know, things will work out in the end. Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, and I think you're right. And I think this community of, you know, leaders really tends to be quite optimistic, maybe even more than the average, possibly. Lynn, what do you think?
Well, I think there are several things here. One, I think given the uncertainty of the times, we probably go in our daily lives from optimistic to not optimistic multiple times a day. I think that's happening to a lot of people.
So true.
I just want to say I am personally optimistic because of the things I have seen about human beings. I've always known that human beings were amazing and magical and unbelievably resilient. But I think what we have seen so far in this pandemic is pretty incredible. And I know we'll talk about that later, but that in itself makes me amazingly optimistic.
I love that. It's beautiful.
I agree with Nadia. It's our role as leaders to keep that spirit.
I love that. That's beautiful. All right. Well, we do have Emily Borna, and I'd love for Emily to weigh in because she is seeing a lot in the workplace when it comes to the legal side. She consults with companies on employment law issues and issues around compliance. She's seeing issues around health and safety, flexibility, agility in operations and management. Emily, would you weigh in for us on what's going on from a legal perspective in terms of this new norm?
Sure, Cynthia, and it's nice to see everyone's smiling faces this afternoon. I just have to comment for starters, with the last poll, I've heard I can't take credit for this term, but I've heard a term coined that I think sums up the mood of people beautifully, which is the Corona coaster. We all go up and down and up and down. You know, personally, I was doing pretty well with all of this until last week when my house was struck with lightning. So, and fried all of our electrical systems. So, you know, having a real 2020, but we do want to retain our optimism. And, you know, as evidence of that, I will say, and I think the other speakers touched on this nicely as well, that it is amazing that over the last few months, in less than 6 months, a workplace model that took centuries to establish has been rendered essentially extinct, not just in the United States, but globally. And no single business leader, no government entity has enough firsthand experience with this global pandemic to be able to say with certainty or assurance when, if ever, the way we work will resume to the pre-COVID operations that we knew. And so it's undoubtedly impacted all of us, regardless of industry or location or size, with respect to the businesses we work with. We work with all shapes and sizes. But as a result, employers really have to adopt a more agile operational structure.
Right.
And be more flexible, not knee-jerk a no. Have a managerial approach that is ready to respond to the change, because the equation is constantly changing as much as we go up and down on this corona coaster.
Okay, well said. Adele, I sent you a chat. I know Adele Wang, who is also a coach and is an amazing person. If you can unmute, would love to hear your 2 cents since you've been listening to all of this.
Yes, I'm really excited.
Hi, Adele.
Good to see everyone. And I'm so excited about this topic because I love the collaboration and great ideas. Absolutely. With my client base, mostly professional and entrepreneurial women, we have accomplished within 4 months, what a lot of business people, the pundits said would take 10 years. You know, the rate of adaptation to online, and I know everyone's heard that word pivot probably 10 billion times, but it's required a rewiring of everything on how business works. And that also cascades into how we stay connected as humanoids. Like when you're not working, because we're social distancing, you know, is Zooming with friends. Some people love it. Some people can't stand it. There's even been some discussion in my clients, they're tired of Zoom because of the nature of Zoom is not the same in terms of eye contact or as a phone call. So some of my clients are going back to regular phone calls. They find it a little bit more relaxing. I thought, oh, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I've even heard some of those that we've been working with have said, you know what, if you need to be on the Zoom conference and take a walk, that's probably a really great time to do it. So thanks for weighing in on that. I do want to get to friend. She's a top woman in business. She is the vice president of strategic development, and she is a financial advisor for Northwestern Mutual, Elizabeth Davis. Hi, Elizabeth. Can you join us and unmute yourself? Elizabeth did have COVID. She's all good now, and she's got the 2 young children. She's been taking some of those conference calls in the car, and you know, it just brings to mind, is this really the new norm? Elizabeth, hi.
Hello, all. Nice to meet you all and see you all. This is the new norm. I have a traveling office in my car, which has come quite in handy. Good air conditioning, but lacks a restroom, which is the only drawback.
But you're protected from lightning, right?
That's right. I am protected from lightning. And I think this new norm is just going to continue to evolve, and there's going to be new chapter after new chapter. What I've been really pleasantly surprised by through all this is just the grace and the patience that women have extended to one another, whether that's chipping in, helping each other watch children while you're kind of tag teaming. I've had many a phone call with a kid behind me and a kid in front of me, and I just feel like the business environment, men and women, have been forced to become a lot more flexible and open to what being a working mom, professional business owner looks like.
I'm sure what Nadia was saying about not being able to get to work until 9 o'clock at night after the kids are in bed, and then your workday starts.
Oh yes, the workday seems to never end. It's almost like I take the pop, it just is ongoing. And the Corona coaster definitely resonated with me. On Monday, I had one of those days. It was like, I need a sandwich and a nap, and then maybe I can deal with this tomorrow. Sometimes you just hit a wall where it's like, I just have to eat and sleep, and then maybe I will be logical with you tomorrow morning.
Probably also relate to the idea of family health being the number one most important thing, given what you've been through.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we've been through it, and we were fortunate in that I think we all kind of got it and cruised through it, but I know that's not how it's going for everybody.
All right. Well, speaking of everybody, we want to find out what everybody's top concern is. So Lisa's going to work on moving everybody into a breakout group. And the question is this, just one easy question. What is your one greatest concern that you have? Your biggest challenge is actually how we wrote it in this new normal. I'll put it in the chat too. And if you would pick somebody from your group to be the facilitator, and then we'll report back on sort of the highlights from your group. So introduce yourself if you like, no pressure. You're under enough already, but we'd like to have a great conversation. So Lisa's going to go ahead and put us in great breakout.
We had a great breakout session.
Oh, hi, Annette. What happened? Tell us.
So we had a great breakout session. I would say the biggest challenges were both personal and professional, and I would sum it up by being a roller coaster. And I think that was a good word. So a roller coaster around, let's just start with the personal side, is, you know, with school being online and then real and then virtual and then hybrid, and, you know, it's just how do you really manage that? Another personal roller coaster is, you know, seeing family that may not be local, you know, having intent to travel to California or even North Carolina and not knowing when you will see, you know, family and grandparents and other relatives. And then there's the connectivity. And I would say the connectivity of people both personally and professionally, which leads to the professional kind of challenges as well. Just how do you figure out connecting with your staff, and then how do you reinvent yourself in whatever this new normal is, and technology challenges as well.
Wow.
We did all that with some technology challenges, but we got it all taken care of.
That is an amazing recap. Thank you so much, Annette.
Our summary word is roller coaster.
Roller coaster, Corona roller coaster. Wow, that was good. All right, well, Lynn and Nadia are experts. Are you two still with us? Did you come back from your group? Because would love for you to weigh in if you just heard what Annette said, that everybody's worried about this roller coaster, you know, personally and professionally, and, you know, also dealing with the technology. Bye. And how difficult that is, a lack of connection. Lynn? You know, it's possible she's not back from her breakout group yet.
I just got back to, yeah. And I thought I was in your breakout group, so I turned my video off and my sound. I thought I had joined another breakout.
So what do you think of what Annette said? Is that what you heard in your group, or was it different? And how do we deal with some of that?
You know, in our group, we spoke a lot about the pressure to be there for your family. And family in different ways, right? We spoke a lot about this balance between taking care of your family and the pressure and fear that you have that your family either could get sick and they're vulnerable, or that, you know, because they're home, they're not being taken care of in the way that they would have had they been able to go out in the world. And so we spoke a lot about that, a lot about the stress of that, and a lot about the stress of, you know, many in our group are entrepreneurs and solopreneurs. So this again, what we talked about earlier, this idea of job security and personal finance, but it's not really about personal finance, but it's about you're building your brand, you're building your future. And here you have a 6-month period where that building has been sort of paused, right? And how do you manage that? And who can you bring in, right, to support you?
Right. Lynn, do you want to jump in? And, you know, I've got to say, to me, this whole conversation is about a reorientation of priorities, you know, really having to confront what is our biggest priority. Obviously, it's health and the family. So everything, especially as women, I think it comes back to that a lot. But Lynn, jump in there.
Well, you know, it's something I feel like I'm on a roller coaster in terms of what's the priority and what's most important. Everything I hear, I think, oh, wow, that's exactly right. People are indeed worried about that. But some of the things I heard, one person talked about their responsibility as a leader, and especially to younger workers who are not as experienced, who are quite frightened about their future, and thinking about how to be for them the kind of leader who is realistic, but who helps them feel encouraged, how to help them build their skills. That's another kind of pressure many of us are feeling. And also just the societally, somebody talked about just worried about where we are societally. How do we move together as one? How do we feel more together?
All right, well, let's go to some of our other facilitators and let's talk about solutions. Jill Kirsch, join us. Jill is a life coach. She is amazing and has an amazing group that of professionals and others who turn to her on a regular basis and really helps them work through some of these issues. So Jill, would love your input on that so that we can focus on solutions. And also, what was your big takeaway from your group?
Thank you very much. First of all, it's such an honor to be on here with all you amazing leaders who obviously want to grow yourselves, and I give you credit. That's who I work with, are, as Cynthia mentioned, high performing professional women. In our group, we had, as Nadia mentioned, there was a mix between worrying about the health of your family. You know, you have to go out, you have to work, but maybe you have a loved one at home that's more vulnerable, as well as how do you grow your business. So we had someone in our group that said she works on referrals. So I offered a suggestion that she appreciated, so I'll offer it to all of you, is if you do work on referral and you're missing those networking opportunities like she was, is you can go back to your fabulous customers and clients that you've taken care of for years and see how they're doing and see if they have someone to refer. And maybe that's a good way to network in the meantime.
I love that. We're going to come back to you a little bit later, Jill, because I know you have some more to say, but that is a great solution and suggestion. I would love to welcome on Dr. Candace Flippen. She's a communications executive. She's also a multi-generational workplace scholar. She has written an article that is appearing on littlepinkbook.com right now, and I want to make sure that I give everybody that link so you can check it out. Hi, Candace. How are you?
I'm great. Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to join you. I actually had the pleasure of being in an amazing group with Lynn, and she shared what we talked about. A couple of things I do want to just circle back on. Earlier this month, on the first week of July, I asked a sample of about 300 women, when do you think we'll be able to go back to work? And surprisingly, over a third of them said by the end of July. So there was so much optimism out there that we get to where we need to be. And the reality is many communities are rolling back to phase one. And so in terms of solutions, I often recommend, as Jill mentioned, checking in not only with your customers, but checking in with your people. Because the reality is we don't know when we're going back, and there's a lot of anxiety. Malik in our group talked about the need to keep his team focused. And some recent research that I saw was very interesting. It said that over 80% of younger workers, millennials and Generation Z, are feeling less connected. And 60% of them are finding that these video calls that we all love to help us engage with is making it very difficult for them to get their work done. And so I think in our need to fill the time where we're working remotely, we also need to recognize that people actually need time to get their work done and to really assess whether or not all the meetings that we're having right now are necessary so that we can take care of ourselves and make sure that we're doing everything that's focused that we need to do.
Really well said. Thank you so much, Candace. And you have some great data, and thank you for sharing it with the Pink community in your article. I know you even said more than 30% of women are thinking about pivoting their careers. And
so that's absolutely another important point that I wanted to bring up, and thank you for reminding me. Also in my data, over 30% of women because of COVID-19, are rethinking our career paths. And so as leaders, what that means is three things. First, you could have a retention issue. So it's important that you check in with your people to make sure that they're doing okay and that they know that you're committed. And then second, you could have a disengagement issue with your group. And so you want to really make sure that you are checking in. And most of us in companies do our employee surveys at the end of the year. You may want to do some pulse surveys now so that you can get a sense of what's going on.
Great suggestion. So we're going to go ahead and go to the solutions graphic. We have kind of a tips graphic that talks about some more of these solutions for you. And we do want to hear from some of the other facilitators, but at least let's get a chance to take a look at this. Here are some of the solutions. Really important to have an emphasis on agility, resilience, and fluidity, which has been mentioned today. Do you want to talk a little bit more, Lynn, about the importance of that? Really important for leaders right now.
Absolutely. And I think we've seen so much of that. I know I think it may have been the very first of these that you had, Carolyn Humberger was on, and she was talking about the fact that they were at that time opening up in China again. And that what they had done before was plan that kind of top down. They'd figure out what they would open and they would tell people what they would do. This time they were doing it with agile teams and with design thinking. And it was a whole different way, a distributed decision making. So a lot more flexibility, a lot more agility. And I think one of the things that will come out of this for sure, I certainly hope, is we'll learn from that. And I think it will be a workplace where we will use the brains of every person in the workplace in a way we have not done before.
I love that. That's so perfect. And actually under this solution, this tip, I did have silver lining really emphasized. I'd love to invite Michelle Glover to weigh in. She is an HR professional. She is also project manager for the Edge. And tell us what your group said, Michelle, if we didn't already cover that, and you know, weigh in on this exact issue of the importance of agility and, you know, positive transformation, taking advantage of this ordeal.
Yeah, and so I like how Annette talked about the roller coaster that they were going through, as we've heard. You know, I would describe, and we had a great group and great discussion, it's almost like we're going up a hill in roller skates with 20-pound weights on our shoulders. And so what we talked about really was this workload and managing the workload, whether it's if you've had to furlough employees and now you're, you know, the manager, the leaders having to take up, you know, some of that slack, so that additional work. If someone's been furloughed and how that's impacting them, kind of that job security as we had at the beginning of the survey, that's been, you know, an issue within our group. And then also managing remotely. And so if you have this remote team and you have now this increased work, and are they getting things done in a timely manner and to the performance expectations you need? So we have a lot in terms of managing the workload of our staff and even of ourselves. And so solutions, you know, I like how one of the solutions you had was that increased communications. We can no longer rely on you're being in the office, so I know how you're performing. We're going to have to trust our employees, but that means also we're going to have to focus on performance deliverables. So not you worked from this to this hours, but these are the deliverables you had, and did you deliver on them? So, you know, that's a way to kind of keep managing the work of our employees instead of the time of our employees.
Very nicely said. Thank you so much, Michelle, for weighing in on that. Let's go back to this tips graphic. The next one, I think we pretty much talked about COVID-related safety protocols. So many of the companies, of course, focused on cleaning, screenings, temperature checks, use of PPE, modified work practices, and then also the emphasis on the need to update policies and job descriptions. Emily Borna, maybe this is another area for you to weigh in. The importance of that, and also even in this category, for some reason, I added appropriate limits on business travel, in-person meetings, workspace proximity. Emily, you want to weigh in on that one?
Sure. Thanks, Cynthia. We've been advising employers, you know, as much as you have to be flexible and agile at this point in this new normal, it's really helpful and important to establish some some related protocols, from the safety aspect to the policy aspect. What are the expectations around leave and accommodations? There's some new leave laws out there. The Family Medical Leave Act was amended with the CARES Act, and for the first time now, there's a question on the horizon about how employers develop policies related to off-duty conduct. That's been a very sensitive subject, from a privacy standpoint. But now, if someone's going to go to a mass gathering without any safety measures in place, what impact could that have on others and on the business? Business travel, most businesses are limiting all travel that's non-essential, and also limiting in-person meetings, from social distancing to proximity. And as you develop these new tools, how do you train your people on them? You've got to have good communications, as was mentioned. There are wage hour implications. If people are not in an exempt position, if they're hourly workers, how are you monitoring their time? How have their job duties and the expectations of them changed as they're working remotely with more minimal supervision, on-hand supervision? So there's all kinds of business continuity planning to be done, and it's important to think through these things carefully and be prepared to change as the situation evolves.
Very good point, and certainly this would demand a much longer conversation, and I think we probably need to have it in the near future and just dedicate the whole time to that. Thanks, Emily. On that tips graphic, also something else we've been talking a lot about this afternoon, the importance of increasing communications and connection, the importance of relationship building adapted to this remote working environment, the importance of one-on-one weekly check-ins, buddy matching, virtual moments such as morning coffee, promoting collaboration. Candace Flippen, this is probably a good time to bring you back into the conversation, because fostering this human connection and combating the isolation and some of the mental health issues and anxiety is really, really going to be crucial here.
I just focus on some of the things that reminded us and Jill, just making sure that we're taking care of ourselves. We recognize that even though our plates are full, that self-care still means a lot. And then the other thing too is I think we as leaders need to remember that empathy during this time is probably one of the greatest tools we have in our arsenal.
Absolutely. Thanks, Candace. Your audio is a little funky, so we're going to move on. But let's go to Jill Kirsch again, because the last point on the tips graphic is full circle back to self-care. And as leaders on this Zoominar, I know that most of the people on this call are really very focused on everybody else, whether it's the kids, it's the employees, their workers, their team. It's so really important to have that reminder to put on your own oxygen mask first, if you will. Right, Jill?
Oh, so important. I just want to make sure my mic was on. So important. It really is, because, I'm hearing from all my clients, and I know with all you guys, we as women are taking everything on. That's what we do. And we do it beautifully, and often to the detriment of ourselves. And what I would wish for each and every one of you is that actually you look back at the pandemic sometime and you go, you know what? That was a time when I learned this, or I progressed in this point in my life. And that's what we can do. Where self-care used to be maybe massages and manicures and pedicures, as human beings, we all want to make progress. We actually have a need to do that. So my question to you is, what meaningful area of your life could you make progress in right now? I often hear that it's with women, it's health and it's diet and it's fitness. We're stuck at home. We actually get to control exactly what goes in our mouths, how things are cooked. We get to set our timers if we want for getting up and exercising 5 minutes every hour in between calls. You have all different types of opportunities to go ahead and meet your goals. I personally have a huge need for self-growth. That's why I'm in what I love to help everyone else grow. So I use this time. My daughter actually was exposed, so we had 14 days of full quarantine. Didn't see anyone, anything. And when I did that, I took a class online that I've never taken, so that I have more tools to help you guys with stress and with anxiety. So I encourage you to think about what are the areas that you could progress in. One other thing that helps is if you start thinking, it helps with agility and self-care actually, if you start thinking instead of this is happening to me, which is sort of a downer, it's happening for me. Where's there an opportunity in it?
I love it. That's really beautiful. Thank you, Jill. Let's go back to Lynn and Nadia. Is there anything you want to add? You know, we have, I think, a really good picture of what everybody, at least who's here with us this afternoon, is grappling with now. Any final thoughts that you want to leave everybody with? Because it is getting toward, you know, close to the hour. And feel free, everybody, to send in your questions and we'll get to them. There are some. Well, go ahead, Lynn and Nadia, weigh in on that. And then if you would take a look at those questions that are coming in, see if we can answer a couple of those. Lynn?
The one thing I would say, I have been listening to things, as Jill said, that I don't usually do. And I listened to a podcast of Marilyn Robinson. She's an author. And she said something that I keep thinking about. Basically, it reminds me to be generous to myself and be generous to others. She said, "We utterly fail to notice the brilliance of the ordinary human being." And I think one of the things we can do right now is to figure out how we do that in every moment. We need, she said, right now to assume honorable intent from other people, to really think about the magnificence of other people, to think about what we've accomplished during this time, to capture the stories of what we've done, and to remember if you're pulled into a micro storm by somebody else, she said, I just say, sorry, I have to go read a good book.
I love that. That's so beautiful, Lynn. Thank you for sharing it. Nadia?
Oh, how can I top that? What Lynn said.
That's tough.
What Lynn said, 100%.
All right, then I think we should go back to Jill to talk a little bit about gratitude. Jill?
Thank you. Absolutely love to. First of all, I want to offer each of you a gift, and that is morning meditations and gratitude is one of the best gifts you can give to yourself. It starts your day off in a total different focus. And as a result, I want to offer each of you, I'll put my email address in the chat. If you email me, I've recorded a really nice morning meditation to help start you off. And that way you can listen to it.
So much, Jill, to start off the day like that. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Jill. And thanks to Lynn and Nadia and Candace and Michelle and Annette. And I'm leaving out a million people. Emily, amazing. We do have some other resources. Jill is going to share that resource with you right now. Definitely take her up on that. She's got some amazing work. The other resources we have for you includes the upcoming Pink Empowerment event that will be next month on August 28th. And Lisa is going to put that link in the chat. Maybe I can even do that as well. We're offering this one for free. We're waiving that $90 fee that it usually costs, thanks to Cox Enterprises. We're able to broadcast that for you so that you can join us for that. And we have a group of pretty amazing, most powerful women in business, including the head of national sales for the Coca-Cola Company, chief general counsel for Cox, and chief marketing officer for Ronstadt. And who am I missing? Sue Schmidfelder with the UPS, their D&I director. So it's going to be a really great group. Karen Greer from CBS in Atlanta will be the moderator. So I hope you can join us for that. Also, wanted to invite you to save the date. Lisa, pop up that screen because I need to do a shout out for the sponsors for sure. We have really amazing, the Home Depot is a sponsor, and UPS, Cox, Southern Company. Thank you so much for your partnership. Truist, we're supporting the Atlanta Ballet, Atlanta Homes Lifestyles, and the Carlisle venue. So really great group of leaders, great group of sponsors, and we are very grateful. Also wanted to invite you to save the date for November 6th. That will be the next in-person event since August is already kind of sold out with a smaller group. We will be together live again in person, socially distanced though for sure. So a few things coming up. We're going to send you the recap from today, and I have been searching for a poem to lead you with. So this is the poem, short and sweet. It is written by Alice Ruth Moore Dunbar Nelson way back in the year, a teacher, poet, journalist, civil rights leader, and it's called Hope. wild seeds of tossing, withering waves, a wreck half sinking in the torturous gloom. One man clings desperately while Boreas raves and helps to blot out the rays of moon and star. Then comes a sudden flash of light, which gleams on shores afar. So that's for you. Thank you all so much for joining us. And we should leave with Lynn's reminder to be generous and kind. So I wish you all of that. Take good care, everybody. See you next time. Thanks for joining us. Bye.
Great job, Cynthia.
Beautiful. Thank you, Cynthia.
Thank you so much.
Awesome as always.
It's a great group. Really appreciate you guys. Candace, thank you for joining us. Lynn, second time around. Jill,
Here.
Nadia, Lisa, great job.
Great to see you all.
Take care, everybody. We'll do it again soon.